Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Another range bound week for Bitcoin. On this day in history, well, you're probably sick of all those articles about the Bitcoin white paper 10-year reunion. So I thought I'd give that one a rest this week. But I have put up this article about whether or not Satoshi will ever be found. And there's a small group of people trying to fund a bit of an investigation. But what do you think? I personally don't think I'd want to know. I like that little bit of mystery, and we don't know if it was a group of people or whatever. And the longer that goes on, I think the more likely it is for this to remain anonymous. But a huge week of news nonetheless, so let's get into it. Now, a few weeks ago, I did this special video about will rising interest rates crash stock markets and Bitcoin. And we've certainly had a big correction in stock markets since then. Housing's come off a little bit, but Bitcoin's held up really well. And we're starting to see these articles about how rising interest rates are affecting people and the number of people that have experienced financial hardship over the past 12 months. And, it's getting up as high as, 50% of people in some parts of the US. So this is certainly something I want to keep an eye on. It's definitely weighing on markets at the moment. And a lot of people sort of coming out and saying, well, the only thing that can stop this is the Federal Reserve backing off the accelerator and saying they're not going to put interest rates up to those levels that put up everyone's bills and mortgage and so on. So very interesting to see how this plays out. We've got a very special guest on the channel this week, Australia's leading expert or one of in terms of housing data. So do not miss that podcast and video that we'll upload on Friday, I believe. I put out this tweet about real estate prices being flaunted all over the media on the way up and shows like The Block and all that sort of thing. But now on the way down, vendors are refusing to disclose the sale price of houses. So you probably think that that's unheard of, but that's because we're probably only used to this bull market. So now on the way down, you might go to an address and go to your domain.coms or whatever, and we don't know the price. That people are embarrassed if they're not making money and flipping all these houses. So bit of a house of cards once it starts to come down. And it's the same with Apple and earnings. They're reporting numbers of iPhones and iPads and Macs and cheerleading when it's going well, but now that Apple stock has topped and had a big correction like a lot of the tech stocks, they're not reporting these numbers anymore. So it's very interesting, and the markets have all become this illusion of, what's the inflation rate versus the real inflation rate. And, there's never been more people unemployed in the US, but if you actually look at the unemployment rate, it's at record lows because they don't count people that aren't looking for jobs and so on. So this market is just all, it's all fairy tale, it's all an illusion, as I said, and you've got to, look into these numbers and do the research yourself, because you're not going to find these sort of things out watching mainstream media. In terms of that correction, I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, that I was looking to sell puts and make a bet that stocks weren't going to continue down, particularly uranium. I've been playing around with a lot lately, and one thing we're focusing on in our members area is getting an understanding and a knowledge. If the housing market turns down, do you know how to make money by shorting the housing ETF? Do you know how to short the Aussie dollar ETF if you think the Aussie dollar is going to fall in value? Do you know how to sell some puts if you think that uranium's not going to go down any further? So being able to make 60% returns. This trade was on and off within 10 days. And this uranium ETF, this is a longer term hold. So I just wanted to highlight the fact that you can be a trader, an investor, and learn these skills, and they are lifelong skills as well. So congrats to those that have followed a few of these trades. Now, Janet Yellen comes out, no surprises here. Bitcoin is not a store of value, and it's anything but a useful currency. This is all just fun and games for me, guys. We can look back and laugh, and these Bitcoin habituaries and the number of people that have said it's dead or whatnot. Jamie Dimons continually, just beating Bitcoin down. Learn to laugh at this and learn to take the opposite side of the trade a lot of the time. You don't want to be listening to these figureheads on mainstream media. So a lot of those people, like the Fed, are threatened by what cryptocurrency allows. They don't have the power where they can pull on their levers and determine how much of your purchasing power they're going to erode and so on. So it's pretty scary stuff, and it's no surprise that we see things like this, India considering a ban on the use of cryptocurrencies. And these are all sort of temporary measures, and attention-grabbing headlines. We've seen China ban crypto 6 or 7 times, and Korea, and now they're starting to come back and open up to it. They see the benefits of a place like Japan, and then for every country that is saying no, we're going to see this sort of article here where the Pan-African Organization launches a framework to encourage cryptocurrency trade. And it was only last week, guys, that I was talking about how excited I am for emerging markets and African nations to adopt Bitcoin. And here we are with Binance launching and getting 40,000 traders in its first week in Uganda. So these are heavily populated countries. This is so exciting to see these sort of numbers. And last year we were seeing these kind of numbers coming out of the US and Australia, the retail investors, but I guess these are the sort of people that, for them, it represents a new currency to use in their everyday lives just as much as being able to buy, hold, or speculate on cryptocurrencies as well. So I just can't wait to see how Binance continue their expansion plans. And I'm talking to them regularly at Binance, and I'll keep you guys in the loop. New Zealand government also giving a $330,000 grant to a local Bitcoin startup, and there's some great quotes in here about, we foresee Bitcoin going a lot higher. One of the arguments is that eventually governments are going to start to recognize that, hey, maybe these people are right. And it might not be in Australia, the US, or New Zealand. It might be those African countries where the governments say, we don't want to go down this path of hyperinflation, and we haven't had a good true currency, in the history of our nation. Maybe we do need to keep 10% of our reserves in Bitcoin and so on. So I love seeing this sort of gradual, one by one, these governments that are sort of warming up to the idea of Bitcoin. And here in Australia, we saw Australia Post come out partnering with this great company, Digital Surge, with their Digital ID product, to create this quick sign-up process. So last year during the bull run, you're all aware of it took 2 weeks for some people to finally get approved when exchanges were just flooded with getting people's pictures smiling with their passports and whatnot to get approved. So now with this new digital ID system, it should be very quick. You should have that ID forever to log on to and create accounts with more exchanges and whatnot. So for your friends, if there's a bit of FOMO in the next run, I think this digital ID system is going to come in very handy. Now, Tether seems like it's always in the headlines, guys. I did predict that Tether would get back to $1. It wasn't the end of the world, but they continue to put out these statements, but it's never going to keep everyone happy. It's never the same as a fully transparent audit, which they have been promising. So until we get that, no one's going to be 100% happy with Tether. But the fact they've come out and said that we're starting a new banking relationship with this trusted, established financial institution. We've got $1.8 billion in the bank. All Tether is backed and so on. I mean, it's a step in the right direction, but let's not hold our breath until we get that actual audit. Bitcoin Cash in the news this week. So Bitcoin Cash has surged more than 12% at stages this week. And this is on the news that it looks like the network's not going to split. So we have Craig Wright, we have Jihan Wu, we have another section of the community that's, at one point it was looking like the hard fork on the 15th of November could split the Bitcoin Cash network into 3 coins. So that's kind of looks like they're coming together now. The picture's a little bit clearer. Binance and Coinbase have kind of come out and said, look, we're going to keep our eye on this and maybe even support and list those forks for you guys, depending on how many there are. So that has given the community a lot more confidence going forward. And that's the reason for this spike in price. Maybe some people viewing it as they're going to make a bit of money off these network splits and be able to sell them to maybe buy some more Bitcoin Cash or buy some more Bitcoin, or whatever they like there. IOTA has got ledger integration. So this is one of the big issues with unique blockchains. In terms of your ledger, you've probably got your head around that concept of listing ERC20 tokens under your Ethereum address. But people often say, why isn't such and such coin on Ledger? Well, it's actually a lot of work for the developers to build a hardware wallet and build that software on top of the blockchain or the Tangle in IOTA's case, and then build that into a hardware wallet that's, undoubtedly secure for storing large amounts offline and all that sort of thing. So it's these little steps in the right direction. We're starting to see it with, EOS, Cardano, IOTA, these large cap coins, and it gives people more confidence to safely and securely store large amounts of crypto in their hardware wallets. One of the big news items this week was Coinbase listing another asset. So BAT was the token that I put out as most likely to be next listed, and it's great to see 0x and BAT and a few of these great projects I've done fundamental analysis on be the ones that are getting the attention. So I did say to members this week, I think the next one to be listed out of all those 4 assets that are remaining now is maybe even Zcash, because they have had that recent upgrade and everything's going really well at the moment. And similar to BAT, it had a good run of news in the month leading up to this, as well as being a great project. But Stellar Lumens is probably that one. Maybe I got a bit excited with all the upgrades that have been going in Zcash. But yeah, there's some great coins, and Coinbase have said which ones they are excited to list. And I've told members maybe 3 or 4 others that I think are a very high chance to get listed that haven't been mentioned anywhere yet. And it wouldn't surprise me to see 10 coins before the end of the year. Now that this is going down smoothly, they've listed a few weeks apart. I foresee them probably listing a new coin every fortnight until the end of the year. It's very exciting, and it's onboarding that next wave of users through Coinbase. It was a big week for Ethereum. So we did see the Google CEO come out and saying that his son is an Ethereum miner, and I think he said he holds a bit of Ethereum as well. But it was DevCon 4, so a huge week. I've watched a lot of these talks. There was some fantastic interviews on Omar Bam's crypto channel, if you want to check that out, interviewing the Maker team, the QuantStamp team. Vitalik and this opening speech is on YouTube, the keynote, talking about the future of scaling and all the things he wants to do. And I think one of the take-home messages whenever I listen to Vitalik talk or Andreas is Bitcoin and Ethereum have got so many people contributing, the smartest people in the world, and they are doing the very best job. And I think sometimes when you just look at a coin, an exchange, or on your app, you forget everything that is happening in the background, and that this isn't really an unknown. These projects are going to scale to some degree in the next coming years. This isn't a kind of, we don't know, it might happen in 10 years. The next 12 or 24 months are probably going to be the most exciting in crypto history, and I just can't wait to watch it unfold and bring you guys all the latest news, I guess. Another surprise presentation or announcement from the DevCon 4 was this blockchains company. So this had been leaked a little bit, a few rumors floating around Reddit before DevCon as well. But this smart city that they've bought, so they've bought acres and acres of land in Nevada in the desert, and what they announced was this smart city, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be all based on blockchain. It's going to research the latest in nanotechnology, the latest in artificial intelligence, blockchain, renewable energy. I'd love to see Power Ledger get involved here somehow, and I have got in touch with the Power Ledger team and said, please reach out to these guys if you haven't already. So there's so many great energy-focused projects. People, these philanthropists, these rich guys that are pouring in millions of dollars into trying to make the world a better place. And this is a tax-free zone. I think in the US there's some laws about investing in the latest technology projects, and you do get breaks on capital gains. All these things are just so awesome. I wish we had more of them in Australia, and this is going to see literally the smartest people in the world move here. Let's see what comes of all this. This tutorial was very exciting for me to make. Please check this out. I put a lot of effort into researching Maker over the years, and now the fact that you can get a loan with a few clicks, check that video out if you haven't already. Next up here is the amount of money flowing in from institutions. So I think a lot of people, maybe speculators and casual investors, are worried that, there's some headlines saying institutional investors aren't here, or it's not happening. Why isn't it happening? If we go down and look through the numbers, something like Grayscale Investments that gives people good exposure to a good mix of high cap coins. Total inflows for year to date, 330 million. So you often forget the trillions of dollars with a T that is sloshing around Wall Street, retirement funds. All this money is looking for a home. and there's a new asset class that's right in front of their eyes, guys. And I'm going to talk about this podcast that Pomp did a little bit shortly, but just rest assured that there is still plenty of money flowing into crypto, and these big investors are down in percentage terms, similar to you if they bought at higher prices, but that doesn't mean that they're not confident longer term. Coinbase raised $300 million, giving them that valuation of $8 billion that I spoke about a little bit last week. But if they're using these funds to accelerate cryptocurrency adoption, I'm all for it. I think it's a little bit for show. You know, these IPOs are these huge companies talking about how much they're worth and trying to get listed. At the end of the day, I don't think it really changes a lot. If anything, I prefer some of these guys to stay, libertarian and away from the stock market maybe. But who knows, if this is bringing more people in and awareness, maybe it's a good thing. Let me know what you think. And finally, BlackRock CEO coming out and saying the crypto ETF will come when the industry is ready and legitimate. And as I've touched on, I really think that they have addressed a lot of those issues. And every day that goes by, Bitcoin is getting more legitimate. The fact it's even been around for 10 years since that white paper now, every day that goes by, Bitcoin gets more legitimate, more people find out about it. And every day it stays at $6,000, guys. People go, oh, geez, mate, that's not a bubble. It hasn't crashed back down to $1,000 or $100 like a pump and dump scheme or whatnot. So it's all good things. If you're watching these videos, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And finally, this headline that the 9 ETFs that got... there's headlines coming out and saying they got rejected, and there was other people saying, no, that's not the date. And then the SEC said, oh, look, we're reconsidering these. They haven't been kicked out yet. So it turns out that the 5th of November is the final day where you can give them comment and your opinions on what you think of these products. And then from any time onwards from that point, the SEC can come out with their decision. So interesting to see if anything comes of this. Again, I'm not really holding my breath for an ETF from one of these smaller applications. It's probably more the VanEck ETF that I'm really excited about, and obviously Backed that's due to come online, any day now. Okay, so this interview was pumped or shared a lot, I should say, not pumped, because it deserved to get pumped. It was a fantastic interview. You guys know that I love Pomp, and please give him a follow on Twitter. But these big headlines of, $10 million per Bitcoin, $160 trillion market cap. Yeah, it's, the headline isn't the important thing. And I'm glad they didn't really promote this as the headline. It was such a deep dive with Murad Mammadov, if I've pronounced that correctly. So yes, he's a well-known Bitcoin advocate and whatnot, but he makes some fantastic points. A lot of overlap with what I've spoken about previously in those videos. Can Bitcoin reach $1 million? Part 1 and 2, and I am working on part 3. So he definitely sees money flowing into Bitcoin for a number of reasons, and yes, please give that a listen. It's an hour and 40, but $10 million Bitcoin, maybe in the next 20 years. On to price action, guys. Again, we're not seeing a lot that has changed. So if we zoom in here, the 7th of November is the next key date here I've got for a bit of a push up from our cycle brackets. Look how tight we are in this range. Some people are viewing this chart on the log scale and some without. It doesn't really make a lot of difference, guys. At some point, we've either got to choose to, break out above or break down and get this final capitulation that a lot of people are talking about. So everyone's saying that they're aggressively going to buy this bottom and 4,000, 5,000, whatever it is. Just remember that when we get that final flush down, it can well be in the middle of the night. You wake up and Bitcoin spiked down $500 and it's already back up $1,000. So not everyone gets filled at the bottom. That dollar price at the bottom of that candle wick that you see, it might represent one order. It might be for $10 of Bitcoin. So don't be the guy that says, I should have bought at 5,500 if that's the bottom. If you're dollar cost averaging every week, and I meet more and more people that are doing this now, it doesn't matter if Bitcoin goes down and up and away the next day and then onwards and upwards forever. You have been buying, averaging, getting more coins in your wallet, getting that average price down if you bought at higher prices. And unless you're a trader, that's the safest way to go. Now for traders, if you know to short and you can make money on the way down and this is a big drop, that's fantastic. But a lot of these traders, they're not bad guys that are forcing the market down. You have to realize that a lot of these guys have made a lot of money shorting, but they're looking to pump that all back into Bitcoin and altcoins at the bottom. And once there's a trend established, or once there's higher lows for trading man Dan. So all these traders have different styles, but they're going to push it to the upside just as they're making money and profiting on the downside. So I know it's hard while Bitcoin's range bound. It's a little bit boring, guys. Every day we get closer to that next bull run. I think this week has been really game-changing for me in terms of the research we're doing at the moment to make a lot of these videos and content and interview people. I've never been more confident that Bitcoin is going to break its all-time highs. You know, nobody can say in the coming months, but definitely in the next 12, 24, 36 months, Bitcoin is going aggressively higher, guys. So let me know what you think. Do you agree with all that? What are the best news articles that you read this week? Let us know in the description below, guys. But thanks for tuning in. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share these videos around, and we'll talk again soon. Cheers.